Okay, Mr. Mayor, we have 6 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. Before I begin, Councillor Froese, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have quorum, so we will begin. It is 6 p.m. and I will call the special meeting of the municipality of Bayham to order. It February 27th, 2024. And I will ask members to, or remind members of any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Seeing none, brings us to section 3, reports to council. Item A, report TR 0624 by Lauren James, treasurer, regarding the 2023 fourth quarter variance report. Mr. James.
Good evening, Your Worship.
Evening.
Just give me 1 second to get to the screen. Hold on. Thomas, can you put the agenda up? My screen won't connect.
Lauren, I don't have that set up right now.
Okay, just give me a second.
See if Lauren can pull it up.
Just bear with me. I'm having technical issues. So before Your Worship is the fourth quarter report. Couple things to note. We completed all the projects as identified. A few projects were deferred. And we also have some projects that carry over to 24. If council has any questions on that, please advise.
Well, we might as well ask a few questions as we go. I assume, for example, on the revenue side, if we're looking at fire services, are you suggesting that we've had a better payout on something like fire marquee or?
So we've had improvement on cost recoveries in Fire Marquee, as well as the bylaws that we have in place for cost recovery when it relates to fire supporting motor vehicle collisions of non-residents and getting that cost recovery as well.
Okay, the roads, it's 55,000 above what was budgeted. Again, is that due to the new road maintenance agreement? Or what is
So that was some one-time funding that we got relating to cost recoveries with the county. That relates to special work that we did that we're back billed. So most of it is cost recovery of road maintenance of additional outside of the roads maintenance agreement.
Okay. Okay, most of it is fairly, your explanatory notes are doing a good job. Does any member of council have any questions regarding the variances? Well, I'm not seeing any. We hear you, Councilor Emerson. Thank you for joining
You
us.
do? Okay. Sorry, I'm a little bit late here.
Well, California time, eh?
No, just driving through the mountains to get where we're going and no cell phone signal, so I had to stop at a Hampton.
Okay.
So,
Do you have any concerns or questions regarding the fourth quarter variance report?
no, I don't have any concerns. Are we talking about the final, because I missed the first couple of minutes, or is there other stuff to talk about, like the final budget for the year?
No, we're talking about the fourth quarter variance, for
Okay,
2020.
no, I have no questions.
If there aren't any questions or further comments, then, we have a motion that reads the report TR 0624 regarding the 2023 fourth quarter variance report be received for information, and that council direct staff to reinvest the maturing GIC investments in noted duration. Lauren, do you want to explain that one before I call the question?
So how, I'm muted. Okay, here we go. How that works, your worship, is last year we started doing a bunch of 1-year GICs, and they have rollover provisions where we either council can have the opportunity to have them mature and cash them out, or keep rolling the investment, which means the original principal plus the interest earned. So that way we can keep rolling it forward. With the investments, the reason why we have a little bit differing term, the first one on the GIC for Eden Cemetery, just a standard 1-year term. And then on the other one, it's a 1-year term of 25 days. So that way it lines up with Project Ojibwe's maturity of the 10-year debenture that's coming up next year.
Okay, so the 526 250 you're looking at, is that a new investment or is that a rollover?
That's a rollover, your worship.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. I'm sure that those who are watching or reading this would want to know if it's additional funds, but it's a rollover. Thank you.
Correct.
All right, with that clarification, do we have a mover and seconder for the motion? Councilor Emerson will move. Councilor Froese will second. All right, thank you. Do we all in favor? There we go. Carried. Thank you. Brings us to item B, report TR 0724 by Lauren James, Treasurer, regarding the 2023 surplus allocation. Lauren?
Thank you again, your worship. Before you is our 2023 surplus report. Our total net surplus for the year is $66,794.42. How this is derived is we had a capital surplus of $232,487.70, and we have an operating deficit of $165,693.28. The net of two equals the $66,94.42. The reason basically why we do have a surplus instead of a deficit, as we had indicated in Q3, was the incompletion of 3 different capital programs that basically gave us a net surplus and a larger capital surplus. Staff have identified where to allocate the surplus to, i.e. one being to planning, because that planning project did not happen, and the other one being the contingency reserve to add additional funds in there for anything that comes up with legal or any council decisions on repurposing or in-year items that are as requested. The reserves are as present. If you want to move over to the Appendix A. So the surplus, staff are recommending the $40,000 to planning, which will do to fund the OP conformity review for 2024, as it did not happen in 23, and as well as the balance going to the contingency reserve, again, to deal with any legal, any in-year expenses, as well as anything that council needs to direct it to. If we look towards the Appendix B, we show the reserve positions of 2023 opening audited, as well as the additional transfers, interest income earned or loss, as well as any operating expense transfers going out of capital. Reserves did come down a bit last year. We used them a bit heavily more on the reserves and reserve funds. That was a strategy implement to try to get us towards the Project Ojibwe debt renewal and termination in 2025. And we had a bit higher utilization of our gas tax and OSIF to continue with our AMP and our capital asset book of roads programs. The reserves are in front of you, as well as the additional new one this year is the development charge. We had DCs collected as well as interest earned. This report's before you, so council can the past reserves, so we can have that as our year-end close position for the reserves. And if council has any questions, look forward to them.
I have one question right off the bat to lead the charge. The Appendix B, those are reserve transfers as of December 31st. So that does not include what you were proposing in Appendix A?
This already has it implemented in, your worship.
So the 26,794 should show up in the contingency,
Correct.
but I see 41,794 there.
So the 41,794 is that plus the in-year capital transfer of the 15 that we had in the original 2023 capital budget.
All right, thank you for that.
You're
Councillor
welcome.
Cho. But you're gonna have to unmute yourself. You're still muted, Sue.
Sorry about that. Funny, because I can hear Lauren, but I can't hear you. So I'm assuming that anybody else can't hear you very well either. So
Thank you.
just speak
How
up.
about now?
Thank you. Yeah, much better.
That's better.
All right. Maybe we should go with head mics. Yeah. Okay. So what I was asking was the allocation of the proposed reserves, if they were already within the Appendix B. And that's what he's saying is Appendix A has already been allocated into Appendix B. I assume that's for illustrative purposes.
That is correct, your worship.
All right. Any questions, concerns?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Councilor Emerson? Yes?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I was wondering, this surplus is kind of a bit of pleasant surprise because I wasn't expecting it. And how is that going to affect rates and property tax or anything for the upcoming year? And how does it affect the capital budget?
I can let staff answer that, or I can give you my estimation right now. Unless those reserve funds are allocated against the levy, they have no impact. Have I got that right, Mr. Treasurer?
That is correct, your worship. And the one thing to note to the councillor, none of these year-end reserves are going to be factored into the operating budget meeting report next week. If council decides they want to utilize them to underwrite the levy, council is more than obliged that they can. I would caution against this, and for one reason. Staff are going to bring forward a list of cuts that council can consider to get the levy below what we feel is a reasonable target. I would caution on using any more reserves to leave that as your remaining powder to deal with next year's budget and upcoming the debt maturity. But that would be my professional opinion on that.
Okay.
I have supplemental.
Yes, Councilor Emerson.
I want to consider, or at least put a motion on the floor to take some of that surplus and put it towards the Lighthouse Reserve. Speaking the last meeting, in reference to the last meeting, we have to have that shovel ready in case any grants or a benefactor comes along. So if we could allocate enough to get to what was the total, $90,000 or something was mentioned in the last meeting, I would greatly appreciate it.
That can be done, but a council can also redirect anything out of the contingency reserve. So when the time comes, if that's what you wish to do. But that's a motion that's already, you've put a motion forward. Does someone want to second that? I'm not hearing a seconder.
I'm not seconding, I just want clarification.
Please ask your question.
You said later on, it could be taken out of the contingency fund, so if we leave it in there for now, excuse me, it can be used for the lighthouse if needed, if it's still there.
I'll let staff answer that question, but that's my understanding. Yes.
Just a quick comment, Mr. Mayor, that what may be a better option is that if Councillor Emerson is interested in having a discussion about allocating a certain amount of funds towards the Lighthouse Reserve, that discussion could be had when we bring the operating budget supplemental report forward next Tuesday. Because we will be proposing a number of cuts, and if council wishes, they could take some monies from one or two of those cuts and redirect it appropriately. If this motion tonight does not have a seconder, that is an option.
Okay.
Okay,
Lauren?
go ahead.
Lauren had his hand up, and then I'll come back to you,
I'm
Counselor.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lauren?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to advise the council, they could use a multitude of the reserves from 2301 all the way down to 2365. These reserves are not restricted. So if they wanted to use a portion of working capital, the existing lighthouse reserve, or any other reserve or the contingency, they could. What I was going to also say to council is I'm planning on bringing forward a revised appendix year-end projected reserve position, so that way council sees the open 24 as well as the year-end projected 24. So that way they have an idea of what reserves aren't already pledged. So if Councilor Emerson is okay with that, that would be in the supplemental package for next week's budget meeting to see what the year-end positions are. And then if wants to have the motion there, and that would probably be the time, because then you guys can see what reserves still have funds at the year-end projection.
Would that suffice, Counselor Emerson?
Yes, it would, but I'd just like to reiterate that from the past meeting that there was some, in order to get any unexpected grants or financing for the repair, we had to have the project shovel ready. So we were short in the reserves, and that's my only concern. I would really like to have that shovel ready in case something happens, right?
Again, absolutely, I understand what you're getting at, but just having the reserve fund there, unless council authorizes the investigation, then it's still moot. But I think maybe it's more productive once we know what the 24 opening's looking like. I think that's what Lauren's trying to tell us, advise us to do, and then perhaps find if we wish to reallocate at that point, or if going through the budget process, we're wanting to trim certain programs, we can and reallocate some dollars from there to that reserve. That won't have any impact on the levy per se, but it's an option, something to look at. I'd hate to see, because I haven't got a seconder for your motion, Councilor Emerson. I wonder if maybe this would be the better route.
Well, I'm kind of thinking it is the only other route if I can't get a seconder.
If you
So,
can't get a seconder, that's what I'm saying. This might be the route. Like you can either.
That's too bad. I would have liked to prioritize it tonight, but if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. So that's fine.
All right.
So
Okay, Lauren, you speak to it, and then we'll have to rule.
Just
on the motion.
your worship, I think it's an easy, quick rack up. The report next week for the budget is going to have the January 1, 24 opening positions. If council wants to scrutinize all the transfer ins and outs, we can go line by line and look at the merit to make sure that council's happy with each and every reserve's position and how that aligns with council's priorities, as well as the motion that Councilor Emerson has. And I think that would be more prudent, because then you guys can catalog what you want to either defer, keep, and what funds could be repurposed over. And that probably would be the more appropriate, because then you guys can see what is the year-end pledging positions.
All right. Okay.
All right. Fine.
Okay. Let's go that way. Procedurally. Not lost, because I've never even made it to the floor. I will simply declare that the motion you put forward, Councilor Emerson, didn't make it to the floor. Okay, at this point, it's not lost or anything. It's just never made. All right.
All right.
Any additional questions regarding the surplus allocation? Councilor Chilcott, Councilor Froese. Okay.
If I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please, Councilor Froese.
extremely happy about the surplus and not against the lighthouse at all.
Yep.
Like was said, I think a little bit of time would suffice and would help us all a lot in decision making.
Okay. Might be in a better position to deal with it at the special budget meeting next week. Okay? All right. If there aren't any further comments or questions, let's go with the motion that report TR 0724 regarding the 2023 surplus allocation be received for information, and that council confirm the 2023 surplus transfer report as attached to report TR 0724 as Appendix A, and that council confirm the 2023 revised reserves, reserve funds, and deferred revenue report as attached to report TR 0724 as Appendix B, and that council confirmed the 2023 sale of asset report as attached to report TR 0724 as Appendix C, and that council directs staff to bring forward an updated surplus of assets report for all departments of the municipality. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Chilcott and Councillor Emerson, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item C. Report TR 0824 by Lauren James, Treasurer, regarding the 2024 Fiscal Outlook Report. Okay, Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you again, Your Worship, members of council. So this is the second year that we've brought forward a fiscal outlook report. I really like giving council this perspective because it gives them the opportunity to see some of the financial risks, as well as some of the headwinds, as well as some of the drivers that impact both our year-end actuals as well as our performance. Just to kind of highlight, on the revenue side, generally the county experienced slowing growth in 23. We were not immune to the slowing growth. Consistently with the Bank of Canada having interest rates relatively high and the easing coming off, we're anticipating slower building and development, which then has a trickle-down effect to slower building fees, slower development charges in water and wastewater, as well as slower connections and adoptions in operational revenues there. However, and also to consideration too, MPAC has still not done their phase-in. So we are still working on 2016 assessed values, even though we're in 2024. Most of the financial treasurers that I've talked to about this file and contacts at the ministry indicate that it's likely not going to happen until 2025, 2026 to start moving on this file. MPAC is still working on this file and still has the data ready, but until the writ comes from the province, we're still on 2016 values. What that means is you have an unequal proportionate share of your current levy, and it's not balanced and it has to be reweighted. So that's the impact to that. As for expense side, a couple headwinds still persistent with the municipality. Just like every business, we're continuing seeing rising inflation, but it has started to cool. One area of still concern is around fire and public works rolling stock and equipment. The demand and the supply is still outstripped, being demand greater than supply, lead time still being poor, and the pricing and the ability to tender or get competitive pricing is not current. So lots of treasurers, as well as directors of public works and fire chiefs, are looking at ways to do collaborative or cooperative purchasing. And you're going to hear lots of that discussion coming forward this year about ways to procure together or to do a cooperative purchasing of multiple pieces of equipment with multiple municipalities as one purchase or RFP or tender. And like every business, the municipality is not immune to retirements, part-time position, as well as casual. So continually recruiting for positions in 24 and 25 as we have retirements and people leaving and going for the municipality is in consideration, as well as a lot of the roles inside the municipality are specialized in nature. And some of those individuals that we have to go out there and recruit, there isn't as plentiful as, general labor, unskilled, or certain defined tasks. So retention and attraction is going to be very important. Now, a couple things to highlight. The new variable for this year for our financial outlook is the shared service. The shared service was a financial savings because as our development slowed, we're able to use a la carte services as we need, not have services on demand It's more on-demand service rather than as available needed. So that's been a really varying improvement. It also will be cost center, so cost in versus cost out matching performance. Now, obviously, the big thing is we have 13 more months until we have to either have council consideration of renewing Project Ojibwe's debt or terminating the debt. So that is our big anchor this year. It is the main reason why we've had tax increases of 9 to 10% last year and this year projected. But it also potentially could remove the debt and the carrying cost for the next 30 years on our books. So this item has weighed on council and staff for a number of years. And we're getting closer to the end of the tunnel on either renewing it or terminating the debt. So it is a council priority, number one on their strategic plan. So just to reinforce that, it is still a high priority with staff to get this termination as close to possible as we can next March. And obviously, we're going to have some unforeseen capital. Currently, the ICIP grant for the community hall is still pending. And obviously, the lighthouse is center conversation in the community as well as for council at the table. Obviously, we do have some financial ability on both projects, but it also has to be weighed in with how we prioritize any additional grant programs we do, any grant programs we have pending, like the Disaster Mitigation Adaptive Fund, as well as any pending debt we need to pledge to the upcoming water line for the secondary board. All these in consideration, the municipality is still going to have probably an above average year, all things considered. We're going to have the ability to maximize yield on our investments. So every quarter, you're going to see opportunities to do 6-month, 9-month, 12-month, or shorter short-term investments to try to improve yield, as well as bring additional revenues into the municipality. So if the council has any questions on this report, I'd gladly take them now.
Thank you for the report, Lauren. Does anyone have any questions, concerns? It's always good as a background document going ahead, looking at the next week's budget. Gives you something to chew on, so to speak. Okay, I'm not hearing or seeing any questions from council. So the motion will read that report TR 0824 regarding the 2024 fiscal outlook report be received for information. Mover and seconder, please. I have Councillor Chilcott, Councillor Emerson. All in favor? In favor of that, there he is. There, carried. Thank you. Brings us to the confirming bylaw. That confirming bylaw number 2024-008 be read a first and second and third time and finally passed. Mover and seconder. Councillor Chilcott, Councillor Rose, all in favor? That's carried. And finally, the adjournment motion. That the council meeting be moved or be adjourned at 6:28 p.m. Moved by Councillor Froese and Councillor Chilcott. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And thanks for joining us this evening. Dan, it looks nice where you are.
It is. Thank you very much. I am coming to join you tomorrow, though.
Oh, well, we'll look forward to having you back. Okay.
Thank you. I am looking forward to joining in person.
Perfect. We'll see you for sure next week. Okay, everyone, and everyone who's joined us virtually, thank you for joining this evening, and thanks for taking an interest in local governance. See you next week.